a genealogist spent 10 years digging through Beatles' family history. What he found in John Lennon's maternal line defied everything we thought we knew. The working-class rebel from Liverpool, the man who returned his MBE to the Queen in protest, wasn't just another English musician. His mother's bloodline traced back to Welsh royalty, to the last native Prince of Wales, who led the final war for Welsh independence and vanished into legend. The anti-establishment icon who sang Imagine was descended from kings and freedom fighters, and nobody saw it coming. For decades, Beatles biographers treated John Lennon's family tree as settled history. Irish on his father's side, a bit of Welsh on his mother's. Nothing remarkable, nothing worth a second look. They were wrong. In 2018, genealogist Richard Edmonds published the results of a decade-long investigation into the ancestry of all 4 Beatles. The book was called Inside the Beatles Family Tree, and it corrected mistakes that had been repeated in print for half a century. Previous researchers had traced Lennon's maternal great-great-grandfather, a man named John Millward, to a pub owner in Llantwit Major, South Wales. It seemed like a reasonable conclusion based on the available records. Edmonds proved it was completely false. The real John Millward was born in the mid-1830s at Dolben Hall, a stately estate in Flintshire, North Wales. His father, Thomas Millward, served as head gardener to Sir John Hay Williams, the High Sheriff of Flintshire. The young John was apprenticed as a solicitor's clerk to the Williams family, moving easily through the world of Welsh gentry. In his early 20s, a hunting accident nearly killed him. His gun misfired at close range, forcing the amputation of his entire left arm. While recovering at a guest house in RHL, he met a farmer's daughter named Mary Elizabeth Morris. Their relationship would produce a child. That child's descendants would include Julia Stanley, born in Liverpool in 1914. And Julia would give birth to John Lennon. The lineage flows through women. Julia's mother was Annie Jane Millward, born in Chester in 1871. Annie's mother was Mary Elizabeth Morris, the woman John Millward met while healing from his wounds. Edmonds spent years tracing Mary's family through Welsh archives, parish records, and census returns. What he found went far deeper than anyone expected. Past biographers had skimmed over these roots or relied on incomplete earlier accounts. Edmonds started from scratch, working directly with original documents. The paper trail led him backward through generations, through centuries, through names that would have stunned the rock star who never knew them. It all began with Mary. Mary Elizabeth Morris was born on a farm at Berth y Glyd, near the village of Lysfine in North Wales. Her childhood was shaped by the rhythms of rural life, the turning of seasons, the labour of the land, the tight-knit community of Welsh speakers who viewed the outside world with suspicion. By her 20s, that life was over. Mary had given birth to a child out of wedlock. The father, a neighbour, refused to acknowledge her or the baby. In the harsh moral climate of Victorian Wales, she was ruined. Her family sent her away in disgrace. It was in RHL, a coastal town where the disgraced and the damaged often washed up, that Mary met John Millward. He was recovering from the accident that had cost him his arm. A young man whose promising career as a solicitor's clerk had been shattered by a misfiring gun. two wounded people finding each other. When Mary became pregnant again, the unmarried couple fled across the border into England to escape further scandal. Their daughter Annie was born in 1871 at the Bear and Billet Inn in Chester, in rented rooms far from the judgment of home. The relationship did not survive. John Millward ended his life alone and impoverished, estranged from Mary and their daughters. He froze to death on the floor of a dilapidated Liverpool bedsit after suffering a stroke, his body lying undiscovered for days. Mary's fate was different. She became, in Edmund's words, a powerful family matriarch. She raised her children in Liverpool, but refused to surrender her identity. She would not speak English, calling it the devil's tongue. She insisted her entire family attend the Welsh Calvinistic Methodist Church at Toxteth every week, without exception. She held on to Wales with an iron grip, even as industrial England pressed in from every side. Mary died in her 80s, approximately 8 years before her great-great-grandson was born in a Liverpool hospital during a Nazi air raid. She never knew John Lennon, but Edmund's research into her family revealed why her defiance mattered. Mary's ancestors were not ordinary farmers. The trail led Edmunds backward through time. Mary's great-great-grandfather was the Reverend Richard Farrington of Llanwnder, Caernarvonshire, a noted author who wrote extensively on the ancient antiquities of Wales in the early 18th century. A scholar, a man who understood that history mattered. 5 generations before Farrington came Owen ap Hugh, an Elizabethan High Sheriff of Anglesey, a position of considerable power and prestige in Tudor-era Wales. The family had been prominent for centuries, but Edmunds kept tracing the line backward, and 5 generations before the High Sheriff, he found the name that changed everything. Tudor ap Grufford, killed at the Battle of Pull in May 1405. Tudor was not just any Welsh nobleman, he was the younger brother of Owen Glyndwr, the last native-born Prince of Wales, the man who led the final war for Welsh independence against the English crown. In September 1400, Glyndwr raised his banner and declared himself the rightful prince. Within 4 years, he controlled most of Wales. He was crowned at Machynlleth in 1404, established a Welsh parliament, planned universities, and forged alliances with France and Scotland. His brother Tudor fought beside him until English forces cut him down at Pull. The rebellion ultimately failed. By 1409, Glyndwr had lost his castles, his family, his army, but he was never captured. He refused 2 royal pardons and vanished into the mountains in 1415. No one knows where he died or where his body lies. Welsh legend calls him Y Mab Darrigan, the foretold son, and claims he sleeps in a hidden cave, waiting to return when Wales needs him most. This was John Lennon's ancestor. The connection also made him a direct descendant of Llywelyn the Great, the 13th century ruler who united Wales. And through Llywelyn's wife, Joan, came lines reaching to King John of England, William the Conqueror, and King Alfred the Great. The working-class hero from Liverpool carried the blood of rebels and the blood of kings. The question is what he would have done with that knowledge. In November 1969, John Lennon sent his MBE medal back to the Queen. The accompanying letter protested Britain's involvement in Biafra, Vietnam, and the poor chart performance of his latest single. He supported Irish independence, writing songs like Luck of the Irish and Sunday Bloody Sunday. He asked the world to imagine no countries, no possessions, no kings. The establishment was his enemy. He built a career on rejecting everything it represented. He never knew he was part of it. Julia Lennon was killed on July 15, 1958, struck by a car driven by an off-duty policeman just steps from her sister's house. John was 17. The trauma never fully healed. He wrote Julia, Mother, and my mummy's dead, trying to process the loss. He named his first son Julian in her honor. She taught him banjo, bought him his first guitar, nurtured the rebellion that would change music forever. But Julia died not knowing her own ancestry. The research that uncovered her royal bloodline came decades after her death, decades after her son's murder in New York. The working-class hero carried ancient blood. The mother he mourned in song carried a secret neither of them ever learned. John Lennon sang about imagining a world without kings or countries. He rejected titles and mocked the powerful. Yet flowing through his veins was the blood of Owen Glyndwr, the last man to lead Wales in a war for freedom, the prince who vanished into legend rather than surrender. There's something fitting in that inheritance. Glyndwr was also a rebel, a man who refused to bow even when offered pardon. He disappeared into the mountains and was never found. Lennon, too, became a kind of ghost, frozen in time by an assassin's bullet in 1980. Forever young, forever defiant. The son never knew his mother's secret. Julia never knew her own. But the bloodline carries forward, written not in crowns or thrones, but in the stubborn refusal to be ordinary. History hides its echoes everywhere. Sometimes they sing